What drives someone to rob a bank? Is it desperation, greed, or simply the thrill of pulling off the impossible? Throughout history, there have been heists so audacious, so intricately planned, and so daring that they've captured the imagination of millions. These aren't your run-of-the-mill smash and grabs, they're sophisticated operations involving months, sometimes years of planning. And the results? Some ended in spectacular success, while others spiraled into chaos. But what makes these crimes truly fascinating is the sheer creativity behind them. Picture tunnels being dug under bustling city streets, elaborate disguises, and escape plans that could rival the most thrilling Hollywood scripts. These are not just crimes, they are stories. And today we're counting down the top 10 craziest bank robberies and heists of all time. So buckle up as we journey through tunnels, dodge laser beams, and uncover how some of the most ingenious criminal minds almost got away with it all. Or in some cases, actually did. 1. The Baker Street Robbery, London, 1971. The heart of the swinging 60s had just wound down, but the city was still abuzz with culture and innovation. Amid this backdrop of progress, a small group of criminals hatched a plan that would shake the British banking system to its core. Their target? Lloyds Bank on Baker Street, a seemingly unremarkable branch that, unbeknownst to most, housed millions of pounds in cash and valuables in its vault. The mastermind behind this heist was Anthony Gavin, a known con man who had spent years perfecting his craft. Gavin's plan was as bold as it was brilliant. The gang would dig a tunnel from a nearby leather goods shop directly into the vault of Lloyds Bank. But this wasn't just any tunnel. It required meticulous planning, engineering expertise, and an almost superhuman level of patience. Over weeks, they dug a 40-foot-long passage beneath the bustling streets of London. To avoid suspicion, the gang worked only on weekends and used a handheld radio to communicate. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Those radio conversations would eventually be their undoing. One evening, a ham radio operator, scanning frequencies out of sheer curiosity, stumbled upon their chatter. The man, realizing what he had intercepted, reported it to the police, who immediately launched an investigation. As officers scoured London for signs of a robbery, the gang was already inside Lloyds Bank's vault. Over the course of a single weekend, they emptied safety deposit boxes filled with cash, jewelry, and priceless heirlooms. By the time the police tracked the signal to Baker Street, the robbers were long gone, leaving behind a gaping hole in the vault and stunned bank employees. The aftermath of the heist was a mix of public outrage and awe. Gavin and his crew had stolen an estimated $3 million, an astronomical sum, in 1971. But like many great crimes, their success was short-lived. Weeks later, the police arrested several members of the gang, including Gavin, who reportedly spent much of his share on lavish parties. Even decades later, the Baker Street robbery remains a symbol of ingenuity and audacity. But it's also a reminder, even the most brilliant plans can unravel, sometimes due to sheer chance. Looking for extraordinary, our next heist takes us from underground tunnels to a scheme that reaches the skies. 2. The Lufthansa heist. New York, 1978. If the Baker Street robbery was all about tunneling underground, the Lufthansa heist brought audacity to new heights, literally. This infamous heist, later immortalized in the movie Goodfellas, took place at JFK International Airport in New York City. It was the largest cash robbery in American history at the time, netting an estimated $5 million in cash and $875,000 in jewelry, equivalent to over $25 million today. The heist was masterminded by James Burke, a ruthless mobster with ties to the Lucchese crime family. Burke, known for his cunning and brutality, orchestrated the heist with the help of an insider. Louis Werner, a disgruntled Lufthansa cargo worker drowning in gambling debts. Werner provided Burke and his crew with crucial details about the cash shipments arriving from West Germany, which were stored temporarily in a high-security vault at the airport. The plan was as daring as it was efficient. On the night of December 11, 1978, a crew of 6 men stormed the Lufthansa cargo terminal. Armed with guns and clad in ski masks, they overpowered the night guards and forced their way into the vault. The heist itself was over in less than an hour, with the robbers making off with millions in cash and jewels. But while the heist was executed with precision, the aftermath was anything but smooth. Burke, fearing that loose ends could lead to the crew's capture, began eliminating his accomplices one by one. Over the next few months, nearly all of the participants in the heist were murdered, their bodies turning up in trunks, dumpsters, and rivers across New York. Ironically, despite the trail of bodies, James Burke himself was never convicted for the heist. Instead, he was eventually imprisoned for unrelated charges. As for the stolen cash and jewels, they were never recovered, adding an air of mystery to an already chilling story. The Lufthansa heist was not just a robbery. It was a meticulously planned operation steeped in betrayal and violence. And yet the sheer scale of the crime remains legendary, capturing the imagination of true crime enthusiasts for decades. If you thought working with the mob was risky, wait until you hear about a robbery that took an entire train hostage. 3. The Great Train Robbery. A heist that captivated Britain like no other, the Great Train Robbery of 1963 was the stuff of legend. This daring operation saw a gang of 15 men hijack a Royal Mail train traveling from Glasgow to London, making off with $2.6 million worth over $53 million in today's money. But what made this heist so remarkable wasn't just the haul, it was the precision and planning that went into it. Led by Bruce Reynolds, a career criminal with a taste for luxury, the gang executed their plan with military-like coordination. They first tampered with the railway signals near Ledburn in Buckinghamshire, forcing the train to stop. When the train ground to a halt in the early hours of August 8, 1963, the robbers quickly overpowered the train crew, including the driver, who was severely injured during the ordeal. Inside one of the train's carriages was the target, a fortune in cash being transported to London. The gang worked quickly, forming a human chain to offload 120 sacks of money into waiting vehicles. In just 30 minutes, they disappeared into the night, leaving behind a battered train and a stunned railway crew. The robbers retreated to a farmhouse to divide the spoils, but their plan to lay low quickly fell apart. Police discovered the hideout days later, finding fingerprints and other evidence that eventually led to the arrest of most of the gang. Still, the money was never fully recovered, and some members of the crew managed to evade capture for years. What makes the Great Train Robbery so compelling is its blend of sophistication and brutality. The gang meticulously planned every detail, but their recklessness in the aftermath ensured their eventual downfall. And speaking of elaborate plans, our next heist goes underground, literally. 4. The Banco Central burglary. If the Great Train Robbery was a feat of coordination, the Banco Central burglary in Fortaleza, Brazil, was a masterclass in patience and ingenuity. This heist, executed over months of preparation, saw thieves tunneling beneath a bustling city to steal 160 million Brazilian reais, worth approximately $70 million at the time. The plan was set in motion by a group of criminals who posed as landscapers. Renting a property 2 blocks away from the Banco Central branch, they established a front business called a gardening company. From this location, they began digging a tunnel to the bank's vault, a staggering 256 feet long and 13 feet underground. The tunnel was reinforced with wood and plastic and even equipped with electric lighting and air conditioning, making it a marvel of engineering. On the weekend of August 6–7, 2005, the robbers finally put their plan into action. Having breached the vault's floor, they spent hours hauling out stacks of banknotes, carefully bypassing higher security areas to avoid triggering alarms. By the time Monday rolled around, they had vanished without a trace, leaving behind an empty vault and a gaping hole in the bank's foundation. What made this heist particularly audacious wasn't just the amount stolen, it was the sheer scale of the logistics involved. Moving 7 tons of cash through a tunnel required meticulous planning, and the robbers executed it with precision. However, their triumph didn't last. As with many heists, the sheer size of their haul attracted attention. Police investigations eventually led to the capture of several members of the gang, and a portion of the money was recovered. But much of the loot and the identities of some key players remains a mystery. The Banco Central burglary is a testament to the lengths people will go to pull off the perfect crime. With their underground tunnel and meticulous planning, the robbers etched their names into criminal history. And related to theatrical heists, the next story involves toy guns, pizza, and a poetic farewell. 5. The Banco Rio heist. While the Banco Central burglars relied on engineering brilliance, the Banco Rio robbers of Buenos Aires brought drama and flair to their operation. This heist, often referred to as the robbery of the century, left police, hostages, and the public utterly baffled. On January 13, 2006, a group of 4 robbers stormed the Banco Rio branch in San Isidro, a wealthy suburb of Buenos Aires. Armed with what appeared to be guns, they took 23 hostages and demanded negotiations with the police. What followed was a masterful blend of theatrics and strategy. The leader of the gang, nicknamed Walter, maintained calm communication with the authorities, even requesting pizza for the hostages to appear cooperative. The robbers released several captives, creating the illusion of progress in the negotiations. Little did the police know, the real action was happening beneath their feet. Unbeknownst to everyone, the robbers had spent months digging a tunnel from the bank's basement to a nearby storm drain. While Walter and his accomplices kept the police distracted upstairs, another team worked tirelessly in the vault below, cracking open 143 safety deposit boxes and filling bags with cash and valuables. As the hours ticked by, the police believed they had the robbers cornered. But when they stormed the bank at 7 p.m., they found only the hostages, unharmed, and an empty vault. The robbers had vanished through their underground escape route, leaving behind a note that read, "In a neighborhood of rich people without weapons or grudges, it's just money, not love." The heist captivated Argentina and the world, sparking admiration for its ingenuity. While some members of the gang were eventually apprehended, much of the loot was never recovered. From Argentina's theatrics, we now shift to London, where a massive gold robbery melted into history. 6. The Brinks-Mat robbery. If you've ever heard the phrase, gold heist, chances are the Brinks-Mat robbery comes to mind. On November 26, 1983, a group of thieves pulled off one of the most infamous heists in British history, stealing $26 million worth of gold bullion, diamonds, and cash from a warehouse near Heathrow Airport. What makes this story extraordinary is not just the size of the haul, but the way the loot seemed to vanish into thin air. The robbery began with an inside man. Security guard Anthony Black provided critical information to the gang, allowing them to bypass the Brinks-Mat warehouse's formidable defenses. On the morning of the heist, 6 masked robbers entered the facility, tied up staff, and used blowtorches to break into a vault. They expected to find cash, but instead stumbled upon 3 tons of gold bullion, an unexpected windfall. The heist itself was quick, efficient, and nearly flawless. The gang loaded the gold into a van and disappeared, leaving behind bewildered investigators. What followed, however, was a sprawling investigation as authorities tried to trace the gold's whereabouts. The robbers faced a challenge: how to launder so much gold. They enlisted the help of criminal associates to smelt it down and sell it piece by piece. Over the years, gold re-entered the economy in the form of jewelry and other items. Despite efforts to recover the loot, only a fraction was ever found. The aftermath of the Brinks-Mat robbery was marked by betrayal and violence. Key figures in the operation turned on one another, leading to a string of murders. Anthony Black was arrested, along with other gang members, but the majority of the stolen gold remained unaccounted for. The robbery left an indelible mark on British history, inspiring books, films, and endless speculation. And though most of the perpetrators are gone, their legacy lingers in the glitter of gold that still circulates today. From smelting gold to drilling vaults, our next story proves that age is just a number, even for seasoned criminals. 7. The Hatton Garden heist. When it comes to Hollywood-worthy heists, few rival the Hatton Garden robbery. Known as the work of the bad grandpas, this audacious crime was carried out by a group of elderly thieves who proved that experience can sometimes outweigh youthful energy. Over the 2015 Easter weekend, the gang made off with an estimated $14 million worth of cash, jewelry, and other valuables. The gang, led by Brian Reeder, nicknamed the Master, meticulously planned their operation. Hatton Garden was the heart of London's jewelry district, home to countless high-value deposits stored in a secure underground vault. The robbers gained entry to the building by posing as workmen, cleverly avoiding suspicion. Once inside, they faced their biggest challenge: breaching the vault. Using a powerful diamond-tipped drill, they created a hole large enough to climb through. Over the course of several nights, the crew worked tirelessly, filling bags with loot and carefully avoiding detection. Their plan seemed foolproof, but as with many heists, greed became their undoing. The robbers took more than they could carry, forcing them to leave some of the valuables behind. Worse, one of the gang members later boasted about the heist to an acquaintance, setting off a chain of events that led to their capture. The police pieced together the evidence, eventually apprehending most of the gang members. The public was stunned to learn that the mastermind was 76 years old, while the rest of the crew ranged in age from their late 50s to early 70s. Despite their age, they had executed a heist that rivaled the boldest in history. The Hatton Garden heist remains a symbol of meticulous planning and human error. And while some of the stolen goods were recovered, the legend of the Bad Grandpas endures. From London's jewelry district, we move to Northern Ireland, where a robbery shook an entire nation. 8. The Northern Bank Robbery. As Christmas approached in December 2004, Belfast was about to experience a crime so bold it would become one of the largest cash robberies in British history. The Northern Bank robbery wasn't just a heist, it was a highly orchestrated act of intimidation and deception that left the entire country stunned. The plan began with a chilling twist. The robbers didn't start at the bank, they started at the homes of bank employees. On the evening of December 19th, two families were taken hostage by armed men posing as police officers. The criminals instructed their captives to carry out specific tasks the following day at work, warning them that any deviation would put their families in grave danger. The next day, the employees arrived at the Northern Bank's Belfast headquarters, appearing calm on the outside but knowing they were being watched. Under immense pressure, they followed the robbers' instructions to the letter, allowing the criminals to gain access to the bank's cash reserves after hours. Over the course of the night, the gang loaded $26.5 million into vans and vanished into the darkness. The aftermath of the heist sent shockwaves through Northern Ireland. Given the scale of the robbery and the sophisticated methods used, many speculated that the crime had political motives. Rumors swirled about links to the IRA, but no definitive proof ever surfaced. Despite extensive investigations, no one was ever convicted for the robbery. The stolen money itself became a challenge. The large denominations were marked, making them difficult to launder without detection. Some of the cash resurfaced over the years, but the majority remains unaccounted for. The Northern Bank robbery stands as a chilling reminder of how fear and coercion can be weaponized. Its impact on Northern Ireland's financial institutions and public trust lingered long after the vault was emptied. While the Northern Bank heist leveraged fear, our next robbery involved something even more intriguing: the bypassing of advanced security systems in the diamond capital of the world. 9. The Antwerp Diamond Heist. Dubbed the heist of the century, the Antwerp Diamond Heist in 2003 remains one of the most audacious and meticulously planned robberies ever executed. This crime targeted the Antwerp Diamond Center, located in Belgium's famous Diamond District, which housed some of the most secure vaults in the world. Despite the high-tech security measures in place, a group of criminals managed to steal over $100 million worth of diamonds, gold, and jewelry, most of which has never been recovered. The mastermind behind this daring heist was Leonardo Notarbartolo, an experienced Italian thief who had spent years building a reputation in the underworld. To execute the plan, Notarbartolo posed as a diamond merchant, renting an office in the Antwerp Diamond Center years before the robbery. This allowed him to observe the building's security systems, routines, and personnel, gathering critical information while establishing himself as a trusted presence in the community. The vault at the center was considered nearly impenetrable. It was protected by 10 layers of advanced security, including motion detectors, heat sensors, magnetic fields, and a vault door with 100 million possible combinations. Despite these safeguards, Notarbartolo and his team, known as the School of Turin, systematically bypassed each obstacle with precision and ingenuity. The heist took place over the weekend of February 15-16, 2003. The gang began by disabling a nearby infrared sensor using a custom-built device. To avoid triggering alarms, they taped over various motion detectors and installed mirrored panels to block cameras. The vault's magnetic field sensor, designed to detect tampering, was rendered useless by insulating spray foam. Perhaps the most impressive feat was the way the robbers cracked the vault itself. Using a forged key and careful observation of the lock mechanism, they opened the vault door without raising any alarms. Inside, they targeted 123 out of the 160 safety deposit boxes, using specialized tools to pry them open without damaging the vault's structure. The team worked meticulously, ensuring that their movements were coordinated and deliberate. They loaded the diamonds, gold, and other valuables into duffel bags and exited the vault as quietly as they had entered. By the time the heist was discovered, they had vanished, leaving behind no immediate clues as to their identities or methods. The aftermath of the heist was just as intriguing as the crime itself. Notarbartolo and his team had covered their tracks well, but they made one critical mistake. On their way out of Antwerp, they disposed of incriminating evidence, including diamond packaging and surveillance footage in a forest. A local hunter stumbled upon the discarded materials and reported it to the police, leading investigators to Notarbartolo. In 2003, Notarbartolo was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, he claimed to be a scapegoat for a larger conspiracy, alleging that the heist was orchestrated by a mysterious client who used him and his team to steal the diamonds. This claim has never been substantiated, but it added another layer of mystery to the case. Despite his arrest, most of the stolen diamonds were never recovered. Experts believe that they were either smuggled out of Europe or recut and sold on the black market, making them nearly impossible to trace. The heist also exposed vulnerabilities in what was considered one of the most secure diamond trading hubs in the world, leading to significant changes in security protocols at the Antwerp Diamond Center. What makes the Antwerp diamond heist so compelling is not just the scale of the crime, but the ingenuity and audacity it took to bypass such advanced security measures. The meticulous planning, technical expertise, and flawless execution make it one of the most remarkable heists in history. Even today, the case continues to spark fascination and speculation. How did a group of criminals defeat a system designed to be foolproof? Was there truly a wealthy mastermind pulling the strings from behind the scenes? And most importantly, where did all the diamonds go? The Antwerp diamond heist remains an enduring mystery, a testament to the human capacity for ingenuity, even when that ingenuity is directed toward crime. And now, for our final story, we delve into a heist of unimaginable scale, one that set an unbreakable record in history. 10. The Dar es Salaam heist. When it comes to record-breaking bank robberies, the Dar es Salaam heist in Baghdad, Iraq, stands alone. On July 11, 2007, thieves made off with $282 million in cash from the Central Bank of Iraq, a staggering amount that remains unmatched. What makes this heist so extraordinary is not just the amount stolen, but the peculiar, almost effortless manner in which it was executed. With no resistance, no alarms, and barely a trace left behind, it remains one of the most mysterious crimes in history. The heist was an inside job, orchestrated with the help of bank employees. At the time, Iraq was still reeling from the chaos of the US-led invasion in 2003. The country was rife with corruption, and government institutions were struggling to maintain order. This unstable environment provided the perfect backdrop for audacious crimes, and the thieves exploited these vulnerabilities to perfection. The operation began early in the morning. A group of men with access to keys and security codes entered the Central Bank of Iraq's Dar es Salaam branch. Despite the massive scale of the heist, moving $282 million in cash required several trucks. There was no resistance from guards or bank staff. It appeared that everyone involved had been carefully selected or coerced to ensure complete compliance. What makes this heist even more intriguing is the sheer logistical challenge of transporting such an enormous amount of money. Cash is heavy, and moving it discreetly would have required careful planning. While most bank robberies involve high-stakes drama, the Dar es Salaam heist was executed with an eerie calm, as though it were a routine transaction. The aftermath of the heist only deepened the mystery. When the theft was discovered, investigators were left with virtually no clues. No one knew how the thieves had managed to pull off such a massive operation without raising alarms. Speculation ran wild, with many believing the heist was carried out with the complicity of high-ranking officials or militia groups. In a country where corruption was rampant, it wasn't hard to imagine such an elaborate conspiracy. Rumors swirled that the heist may have been politically motivated, with the money funneled into funding insurgent groups or private militias. Others suggested that it was a purely financial crime, orchestrated by individuals looking to exploit Iraq's fragile financial system for personal gain. Despite these theories, no concrete evidence ever emerged, and the case remains unsolved to this day. One of the most baffling aspects of the Dar es Salaam heist is the fate of the money. Unlike gold or diamonds, which can be melted down or sold anonymously, cash is far more difficult to launder, especially in such large quantities. Some of the stolen money likely ended up on the black market, but the bulk of it remains unaccounted for. In the years following the heist, sporadic reports of marked banknotes appearing in other countries only added to the intrigue, but they offered no definitive answers. The heist also exposed glaring weaknesses in Iraq's financial infrastructure. In the aftermath, the Central Bank of Iraq faced scrutiny for its lack of proper security protocols and its failure to safeguard such a significant amount of cash. The incident became a stark reminder of how vulnerable financial institutions can be in times of political instability. What sets the Dar es Salaam heist apart from other robberies isn't just its scale, but the mystery surrounding it. Unlike many high-profile heists where meticulous planning and dramatic escapes are the main draw, this crime feels almost surreal in its simplicity. The robbers walked in, took the money, and walked out, leaving a gaping hole in Iraq's financial system and a trail of unanswered questions. Even today, the heist continues to capture the imagination of investigators, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts. Was it an act of political defiance, a carefully executed military operation, or simply a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity seized by a group of opportunistic criminals? The Dar es Salaam heist holds its place as the largest bank robbery in history, a record that remains unbroken nearly 2 decades later. Its scale and mystery make it the crown jewel of audacious crimes. As we reflect on this and the other incredible heists in history, one thing is clear. Even the most secure vaults can fall victim to human ingenuity, ambition, and sometimes sheer boldness. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.